I've been getting heavily into min-maxing Baldur's Gate, and I have not found a single good video or Reddit thread or anything that covers this topic. It's always some, like, trash list by someone who has, like, a weird restriction on their playthrough where it's like, oh, I only do 5 long rests per chapter. Yeah, alright, bud. Or it's from some, like, straight moron who, like, says halflings are, like, C tier or something, and it's like, okay, you clearly don't know what you're talking about. So, the way this is gonna work is we're gonna look at the race together, and then I'm gonna explain why 90% of them are fucking terrible, but we'll see where they land. Okay, let's get the 2 just truth bombs out of the way. Lightfoot Halfling is the only race that actually matters. They are so much better than everything else, it's probably gonna take me 10 minutes to fully explain to you why they're just so much better than everyone else, but we'll get to that next. And the Dragonborn are all unjustifiable, literal garbage. They're all the exact same flavor of fucking shit. They all suck. So, let me explain why. First, the Dragonborn. Real easy to explain the Dragonborn. They do not get any bonus proficiencies with weapons, armor, skills. They do not get any bonuses of any kind. The only thing Dragonborn get is a minor resistance to one element type, which does not fucking matter, because, yeah, fire is the most common element type, but it still only comprises, like, 15% of all the damage you take. And they get their cone breath attack. And if you're wondering, no, this is terrible. It's 2d6. Oh, it doesn't even fucking show you. It's 2d6. That's right. As soon as you get to level 3, your, like, basic attacks can out-damage this. This does 2 to 12 damage. Something like the Titan String Bow, which you can get at, like, level 2, that shit can deal, like, 12 to 20 damage on, like, a bard. So, the one thing that this race does give you is outclassed at level 2 by any competent build. And where's the halfling at? Okay, Lightfoot Halfling. This is... If you see somebody put halfling anywhere other than the best race in the game, you automatically know they either have some fucking weird ass restriction on how they're rating things, or they just don't understand the game at all. So, first off, they start with a quote-unquote downside. They have 1.5 less movement, like meter movement, than is standard. This doesn't matter at all because Longstrider is a thing and is meta and everyone picks it unless you're that one delusional idiot who also put Fireball as a B tier spell. God, imagine being that fucking guy. Anyway, movement just, like, isn't that important as a base stat because there's so many ways to get it. You know, enhance leap, stealthing, just so many ways to either ignore movement. Dude, you could straight up pre-cast Longstrider, then cast Enhanced Leap before going into a fight, and it's like, there you go, you have like 50 meters of movement now, and it doesn't even take up your action. So this is a nothing thing. Halfling luck is genuinely so good, it could be like an A tier feat in its own right, and it is a feat in its own right. It's called lucky. So Let me just read this, and if you're smart, you'll know exactly why this is busted, and if you are the less gifted among us, you know, you dumped intelligence and you haven't quite found the headband of int yet, I'll explain. Single reroll on a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Okay, so this... On the surface, if I can be real with you, on the surface, you might not understand why this is as good as it is, because if you just casually play through the game, you might not comprehend this fully. But I want you to understand pickpocketing. Pickpocketing is so powerful that it invalidates a lot of the game, and there's a reason for that. Invisibility potions invalidate Draengar. I know people love to talk about how good Draengar is because of unlimited invisibility. Invisibility potions do the literal exact same thing as the Draengar racial passive that everybody says is S tier. And halflings, within the first 30 minutes of playing the game, because of halfling luck, can guarantee that they can always succeed in pickpocketing. So it's actually, like, safe to go into honor mode expecting to pickpocket everything the entire game. So every time you long rest or level up, merchant inventories refresh. You can rest without supplies to refresh merchants. You can literally, as a halfling, park on a merchant, steal their 3 invisibility potions. The one merchant in the Zafarian, I think it's pronounced, hideout has anywhere from 1 to 3 invisibility potions on him at any given time. So you go behind him, you long rest without supplies, go back in, steal 3 invisibility pots, partial rest, do that like 10 times. There you go. You have 30 free uses of invisibility. And that's just what you farmed off that one guy. So the reason why this is so strong and you need to be a halfling for this is you can get the Gloves of Thievery to get advantage on pickpocket checks. So you roll 2 dice. You get the Ring of the Shapeshifter, which is 1d4 for pickpocket. Guidance is 1d4 for pickpocket. Then you just get +9 in general. So you have anywhere from a 9 to like 14 advantage on this roll. And you're rolling 2 dice. Halflings, however, ignore the only way this can go wrong if you roll a 1. You see, 1s change the game. Because if you want to say steal 3 invisibility potions, you need to get like a 12, which is a high roll even with all your buffs. If you're rolling 2 dice, it's inevitable you're going to get this high roll. It's like a 95% chance to succeed. However, rolling a 1 means every single time you pickpocket, there is a 1 in 20 chance, or a 5% chance, that you are going to fail the pickpocket no matter what. Halflings turn this into a 1 in 400 chance. Halflings with advantage turn this into a 1 in 8,000 chance. So you're going to be pickpocketing if you're optimizing the entire game. You will pickpocket hundreds of potions. You will pickpocket hundreds of arrows if you're playing with a bow, which you really should. You will be pickpocketing literally over 100,000 gold on average per playthrough. You have to roll pickpocket. In my playthroughs, my like optimized honor mode runs, I will roll a pickpocket roll upwards of 300 to 400 times in a single run. Little more, little less. Even in multiplayer, I'll still do it that much. So if I'm rolling, we'll say 400 times as an average, without being a halfling, every 1 in 20 roll, you're talking I'm going to fail like at least 40 pickpockets. Then consider saving throws and attack rolls. You're going to attack 500 plus times. So it's like, God, there's like another 40 critical fails you're going to get. Then you consider your ability checks in dialogue. That's going to be at least another 5 to 7 failed, like critical fail throws. Then you consider saving throws on all the times you get charmed by an illithid or something. You will, on average, start to finish in like a 60-hour playthrough, roll 3,000-ish dice, give or take. Like you're somewhere in that ballpark. So you're talking like realistic chance that you're going to roll in the ballpark of 100 critical fails in a 60-hour playthrough. That is a very reasonable estimate that you will critically fail 100 anythings. Halflings almost never critically fail. You would have to critically fail 400 times for them to actually critically fail at something. So that means for a halfling to truly critical fail, you're talking something that is expected to happen once every like 10,000 dice rolls. Whereas, mind you, this is something that, get this, every other race fails every 20 dice rolls. That is so unbelievably pushing luck in your favor that it basically just removes that aspect of the game entirely. So that means that if you are playing optimally, every single like persuasion check, you're getting like at least 11 to 15 as a bonus on your persuasion checks. And the lowest you could ever reasonably roll as a halfling is a 2. So that means you're always going to get, at the very least, a 13 on your persuasion checks. Dude, that encompasses like 70% of the persuasion checks in the game. And then, like, an extra 15% of all persuasion checks are exactly 15. So, halflings succeed like 90% of all persuasion checks just as a default, at a base level. Whereas again, the only time you really have to worry about failing these is if you critically fail. This one racial is the exact same thing as adding a very powerful feat into every single build. This is basically an extra feat to your build. And you can use the minor illusion spell to get around any racial restrictions. You go to the Githyanki creche, then you just minor illusion as a Githyanki. Okay, there you go. You want to use the psionic extra damage from, like, the sword, the silver sword and shit, just minor illusion into a Githyanki. And there you go. You now get all of this and all of those racial item bonuses, and you don't even have to pick that race. Okay, now let's talk about other stuff. Brave. Advantage against being frightened. Would you look at the list of things that can frighten you? Frighten has got to be the most common, the second most common, just crowd control check in the game. You can't move, and you have disadvantage on all attacks and abilities. This is a crippling status effect. This basically, like, takes you out of combat, and it's super common. But then, this gets even more crazy. Advantage on stealth checks. Stealth is the strongest thing in the game, because, if you didn't know, fun fact, at least when you're wielding a bow, guaranteed every single time, for some reason, I don't know if it's just a glitch, but the game's been out for a year and they haven't patched it yet, you can always, 100% guaranteed, even if you attack from stealth, let's say you bind your basic attack button to, like, spacebar, and you do basic attack, you spam the basic attack button and attack again, you will always, at the bare minimum, get 2, and it won't take your action, because just like Divinity, it's considered to be like an action before the combat started, even though the entire animation plays out after combat starts. So, you can always get, at the bare minimum, 2 free attacks in before it takes your roll if you get the stealth check. So, double rolling stealth die, which again, the same items that boost your pickpocketing also tend to boost your stealth. Halflings have like a 1 in 8,000 chance to critically fail stealth. And because you have like plus 15 to your stealth bonus, just like you do your pickpocket, because all the same items are going to affect it, this means you can reasonably get like 3... Dude, in my solo no party honor mode playthroughs, I have times where I get like 5, 7 fucking attacks off in a row in stealth before combat starts. And it's like, Jesus Christ, I ended combat before it even started. And it's like, no other race is going to do that. You know, you attack 7 times from stealth as any other race other than Halfling, and like, you're pushing into like realistically like 35-40% probabilistic territory to just critically fail and instantly break it. And then you consider the implications for greater invisibility because you have advantage, so you're rolling 2 dice on top of a plus 15 roll. Advantage is the best thing in the game. And you consider like a bard, because let's be honest, everyone who's min-maxing is playing a fucking bard. Bards get expertise on their proficiencies. So you have proficiency, you pick a class where something like stealth is your starting, then you pick stealth as your proficiency, then you pick stealth as your bard expertise, and it's like you have fucking plus 10 to your stealth checks, then you have advantage on it from being a halfling, so now you're rolling 2 plus 10 die, and you can never critically fail, which would circumvent all of your building. And it's like, Jesus Christ, there you go. You have like a 100% consistent build that also can attack like 7 times before combat starts, and can steal every potion, and has permanent invisibility because of it, and has unlimited gold. And it's like, okay, there you go. That's how you break the game. Anyone, and I mean this without exaggeration, anyone who does not put Lightfoot Halfling as the best class in the game, you can safely, or not class, I'm sorry, the best race, you can safely ignore just about everything they have to say. Because Lightfoot Halfling, even if you only care about combat perspective, never critically failing in combat on your attack rolls means you never critically miss. So if you have like an 85% chance to hit, it's actually closer to like 92% chance to hit, because that base 5% chance you have to always miss anything no matter what no longer exists. So if you've got a 95% chance to hit, you don't have that 5% chance to critically fail. You just always fucking hit. This also makes things like Sharpshooter better, and Sharpshooter's already one of the best feats in the game because it's the biggest damage boost to the best build in the game. It's just Lightfoot Halfling specifically has so many unbelievably powerful stacking things. Let's put it this way. Halfling luck is strong enough that I don't think it should be a racial. It should be a fucking feat. So this is genuinely like an A or S tier feat level of power. Brave is advantage against the most common debilitating crowd control effect. And naturally stealthy is advantage on one of the most common and impactful skill checks, which you can also never fail because of luck. So it's like any one of these would be strong enough to bump any other race a tier up on the list. And the fact that all 3 of them are crammed into one race, would you then consider that item restrictions or dialogue restrictions, you know, like the racial sections in the game with the Githyanki or the Tieflings or the whatever the fuck, you can just minor illusion to get any other racial benefit that is tangible, like skipping combat in the Kresh or whatever? You can just get that with a level 1 spell. Hell, if you buy the deluxe edition, you don't even have to take the fucking spell. You can just use the Mask of the Shapeshifter. So it's like, when you combine all of that, that's how you actually break the game. Okay, after 20 minutes of explaining this, we can finally talk about something else. I'm gonna put a timestamp to skip this shit. Okay, humans are garbage. So the only good thing about humans are their proficiencies. Getting an extra proficient skill of your choice, that is not terrible. Shields is hard to come by, so shield and 1 extra proficient skill. That is the only things humans do. Who gives a fuck? If that 1 skill you really need to be proficient in it, you're gonna find an item that gives you advantage, and then you're just gonna use that. If you really need shields, you're gonna take like 1 level of fighter or like swords bard or anything that gives you this proficiency. This is a literal non-factor. Elves are actually, yeah, elves, high elf and wood elf. High elf has standard movement. Short swords, whatever. Long swords, whatever. Short bows, whatever. Long bows, this is actually really good. This one, you either, like, this one is hard to come by. You either need fighter or ranger, or you need to use, granted, there are gloves right at the start of Act 1. You just buy it from the Goblin Camp, and it gives you +2 to attack rolls and damage, and gives you this proficiency. So that kind of makes this not valuable, and this is like the best thing that elves give. Perception is not bad as a proficiency. In fact, it's actually like top 3. It's something that I would manually put points into. And wood elves are proficient in stealth. Again, I really need to stress this, by the way. Advantage. Rolling an entire extra dice every time on every check for the entire game is a lot better than just getting a +1 or +2 to that check. So again, this is invalidated by this existing. This is genuinely giving you 10 times the power of this. And then you consider it doesn't matter if this gave you +20, there's still a 5% chance you instantly fail it no matter what without halfling luck. But whatever. Charmed is something that really only illithids tend to do, but granted, you fight a lot of illithids in this game. I have never been put to sleep before in my life. There's a level 1 spell that will never trigger on you. I don't even know if enemies have Glyphs of Warding. I've never seen it cast. And I've also never seen an enemy cast an Eye Bite on me. So, like, I've literally never been put to sleep before. Now that I think about it, I have never been put to sleep before in this game. So advantage on Charmed is nice. Not getting charmed by squids as retaliation for attacking them. It's nice. It's not good, but it's nice. One cantrip of choice from the wizard spell list. Garbage. Garbage. Who gives a fuck? The cantrips in this game, can I just quickly pull up the wizard cantrips? The wizard cantrips are fucking, like, whatever. True Strike is terrible. Like, the only thing, if you want any of this stuff, you're just gonna get it somewhere else. Like, again, let's look at Bard, because Bard is the best class in the game. They get Friends, they get Mage Hand, or I'm sorry, they get Friends, they get Minor Illusion. Like, everything you'd actually want here, every other class also gets it. So, like, that's bad. So, the only good proficiency that High Elves get can be gotten with a fucking pair of gloves or a 1-level dip in any of the meta classes that everyone... Like, everybody wants 2 levels of fighter for action surge. You put 2 levels in it, you get to take an extra action. Which with, you know, something like Swords Bard ends up being an extra attack, so it ends up being like 2 actions worth of value. You know, so like most martial classes want fighter levels, which means they can just get this from that if they're going to play longbow. You know, so like if you want to use longbows, there's better ways to get it. Short swords and long swords also aren't special. Yeah, high elf is pretty garbage. I'm going to put high elf down here. They are pretty terrible. Oh yeah, also dark vision. Who gives a fuck? I've never had dark vision be super impactful. Wood elves, however, are much better. They move a bit faster. So remember how I said the movement speed penalty doesn't matter? Well, the inverse is true for movement speed increases. They're actually rather good. Because if you have something that gives a % increase to your overall movement, like increased jump, then having higher base movement actually matters a lot. Because this will end up being like 7 to 10% longer enhanced jumps. So instead of jumping like 30 meters, now you're jumping like 33 meters. And like, hey, that basically adds another long stride. If you think long strider is like S tier, this basically adds another long strider's worth of movement to your enhanced movement through spells. It's not exactly 1 for 1, but it's in the same ballpark. So that's really good. Stealth, very good thing to be proficient in. So these guys are up here. They're actually pretty good. And then what's next? Drow. The Drow, the black elves, the dark elves, the old back of the bus elves. So standard movement, rapiers are surprisingly okay. Short swords and hand crossbows, this is a sad weapon proficiency list, dude. Perception, that's really good. Fey ancestry, we already talked about it. Superior dark vision, who gives a fuck? Dancing lights, fairy fire, and darkness spells. Darkness spells with superior dark vision are actually pretty good. But the Drow are not very good. We're gonna put them like down here. They are not strong. I don't consider this a benefit at all. So for example, you can just straight up walk into the goblin camp and get like 300 XP for passing all the checks as a Drow, and the Drow don't have to roll anything to pass the checks. They just walk in and they're given access. You could literally come fresh off of the Nautiloid, Minor Illusion as a Drow, and then walk straight into the goblin camp, buy the gloves, get longbow proficiency, +2 to their attack rolls, and +2 to their damage. So, like, that's why I don't value this whatsoever. And it's like, okay, so the actual benefit of playing a Drow, the dialogue checks, minor illusion. Minor illusion means anything like this being like a bonus is automatically not a bonus. But I will say, at least dark vision and darkness spells for free is actually pretty good. Like, that's something you can use. Okay, now we have the half-elves. High half-elf is just a regular half-elf with shield. Yeah, it's just a regular half-elf with shield, so it's automatically better than a normal high-elf. Because shield is good and kind of hard to come by. And wood half-elf is stealth, fleet of foot. It's basically just a regular half-elf, but you're giving up perception for shield proficiency. And considering how it's easier to get perception proficiency than it is shield proficiency, I gotta put them logically a tier above wood elf, because they're just a better wood elf. And drow half-elf have to go above their normal counterparts, so yeah, they have to be up here. Alright, that's pretty fair. Ah, yes, half-orc. Half-orc is probably the most overhyped fucking race in the game. So, they're good at intimidation. Intimidation is a relatively common check, so that's not bad. Savage attacks. Add 1 additional dice of damage when scoring a critical hit with a melee weapon. Okay, I want to, first and foremost, this is not good. This is a feat. Granted, this is a feat. So, like, you know, this is the same thing going on with halflings, where you're just straight up adding a feat into a build. However, this is not a particularly great feat, because first off, I'm just going to say something that I know a lot of bad players are going to disagree with, but I don't really care. Melee builds are the worst fucking builds in Baldur's Gate 3. The only one that is even moderately acceptable is like Tavern Brawler. If you nerfed Tavern Brawler, or just didn't take it, then melee attack builds are the worst in the game. And no, I don't care that you saw a YouTube video of some guy, like, killing a boss in honor mode solo. Yeah, dude. Any other competent build. See, this is the thing. Baldur's Gate 3 has RP shit builds, where you have no idea what you're doing, and you're just throwing on random things that sound good, which is how 90% of people play the game. Then it has actual builds, where, like, you actually sat down, went through the wiki, combed for the best items, and then you, like, wrote down in a Discord or whatever, I need these items for this reason. Then, when you do that, you know, you make an actual fucking plan instead of just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. The game basically changes in terms of how you view builds. Your 12 rogue build that you swear to God is viable looks pretty fucking awful when, you know, my ranged 4-way multi-class abomination bard attacks 7 times per combat for 100 damage each attack, and can stealth those 7 attacks to do them for free if it wants to. And then it's like, oh, yeah, my little rogue that attacks twice for a grand total of like 70 damage. Yeah, that is fucking terrible. You do 700 damage from stealth before combat even starts. I do 70 damage a turn if I'm lucky. You know, when you view it like that, it's like, oh, there's a very big difference in this. And Savage Attack is one of those things where, like, melee is just not fucking good, and crits aren't that common, especially for melee. Okay, that's not entirely true. You can use Hold Person. Hold on, there is one way to make this really good. bg3 Hold Person. If you do this to guarantee critical, because yeah, always critical hits. If you do this, and then you have like a half-orc fighter barbarian or whatever, then they can get in and do some serious damage. In a solo environment, this shit is not worth doing at all. In a group play environment, like multiplayer or something, it's pretty fun. So it's better than most races, I'll say that. This is a non-factor. If this procs in combat, you're just gonna die on the next turn anyway. And if this procs to something out of combat, why are you dying to traps? This is a non-factor. I don't even consider this to be, like, a thing. Like, it's cool. This is the kind of thing that, like, will save you in your first honor mode run, and then you swear it's really good, but then you recognize that, like, if you're gonna be playing honor mode, you just kind of, like, memorize where, like, death traps and stuff are, because there's only, like, 3 in the entire game that, like, try to push you off ledges and shit, and it's like, oh, okay, I can just remember that that's there. Also, when you consider that, again, let's say you're stealth halfling, you're playing like meta stealth bard halfling, you just click your invisibility potion and then you just walk away from the combat, and that has like a 99.99% success rate because you're a halfling. So it's like, okay, that's basically the same thing. Just instead of actually letting your hit points go down, the turn before, you have to make a judgment call and say, these guys do too much damage for me, I'm going to stealth out of here. Really, the only thing that makes half-orcs a thing is hold person, jump in, attack like 3 times with extra attacks, and deal like 200 damage. That's like the only thing holding them in. Because that's something you could do really... Like, let's say you're using Gale in your party. Gale can get and succeed his hold person checks most of the time, starting at like level 3. And you can have the Everburn Blade, so, like, you know, by level 3, you can start throwing out, like, you'll have extra attack for Action Surge, so you're gonna crit, your critical hits as a fucking orc are gonna do, like, at least 20 damage, and then Everburn, like, adds 5, so, you know, you're gonna be dealing, like, 50 damage at level 3 a turn, against serious threats. That's enough to just kill, like, for example, a Gale half-orc combo can just kill Priestess Gut and, like, or her bodyguard in 1 turn. So that stuff's pretty cool. I kind of want to give half-orcs the A tier just because of that. But again, if you aren't gonna have that synergy, then they're like down here. Like, they are not fucking good. But I'm going to assume you're playing optimally to their strengths and they have that synergy. Stoneheart Halflings. They have Halfling Luck. They have Brave. However, they don't have the advantage on stealth checks. They have advantage on poison and resistance to poison. So these guys just go, like, up here. They are not as game-breaking as Lightfoots, because Lightfoots roll 2 dice for stealth checks, which I don't know how the fuck Larian thought this was okay, dude. I'm gonna tell you right now, the races are so fucking imbalanced in this game. People tell you that races don't matter. Bull fucking shit, they don't. There are races that are active detriments, like Dragonborn, where it literally just makes any character imaginable noticeably weaker than if they were like Halfling. Okay, dwarves. Gold dwarfs. So dwarves have the movement penalty, which doesn't really matter. Gold dwarves. Maximum hit points increased by 1 per level. Yoink. Do I need to explain? You're not given any weapon... you're given decent weapon proficiencies. But you're not given any skill proficiencies. You're not given any special effects. You're not given anything. You're given 1 hit point per level. So this is 12 hit points at the end of the game. Wow. This doesn't even let you take an extra attack most of the time. Bro, someone like Honor Mode Raphael hits you for like 30 fucking damage. This doesn't do shit. And then, like, early game, when you're level 3, this gives you 3. This needs to be doubled. Just straight up. But then again, if you double it, then it becomes the tough feat. But then again, the tough feat is fucking terrible, and that needs to be doubled as well. Really, this should be doubled, and tough should be doubled. Oh, also this. Advantage, I've never really been poisoned before, so, like, who cares? Shield dwarves are a tad better because they actually have some decent proficiencies. So they're definitely better than Drow and shit. I'd rather be a shield dwarf than a Drow just for that medium armor. Yeah, just to use medium armor with like a battle axe. Duergar. I know people put Duergar like up here. I am not one of them. And let me explain. So decent proficiencies, garbage bonuses, the charm and paralyze. This is actually really nice. The Duergar resilience. Superior dark vision is whatever. Enlarge and invisibility spells at level 3 and 5. Okay, so people say like this is permanent ritual invisibility. Yes, that is good. However, you know what else is good? Invisibility scrolls and or potions. And do you know who gets an unlimited amount of those? That's right. It's the stealthy advantage rolling pickpocketer that can never critically fail. When you don't have to fear critically failing, you can pickpocket any merchant for almost any item and succeed with 99% success rate. So like, you can just steal an invisibility potion. You just steal invisibility scroll. And then it's like, yeah, that's literally the same thing as ritual casting invisibility. So compared to like a human, I guess Duergar go up here because like I'd rather be a Duergar and just spam ritual invisibility than like anything else on this list. Like they're going like at right next to halfling. Yeah, like right here. Like I would rather be a Duergar and I'd rather spam invisibility like every other fucking turn after every action or whatever over being literally anything else on this list that isn't a halfling. But still, man, you consider that halflings get this for free from items that they steal from their feet. I'm not even going to call it a racial passive. It's literally just a fucking feat. And it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess. Ah, yes, the Gnome. I'm not a Gnelf. I'm not a Gnoblin. I'm a Gnome. So Gnome Cunning is actually pretty crazy. Advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Oh, so you mean I get to roll twice for any fucking saving throw that actually matters. Wow! Wow, I actually get to, it's like, okay, damn. So, any crowd control in the entire game, I just get to roll 2 dice to resist it. If I wasn't going to play a halfling and stealth, like if I was playing a multiplayer game where stealth was banned, I would play a gnome just for gnome cunning. And then speak with animals is shit. They have literally no proficiencies to speak of. Superior dark vision is whatever. And then stone camouflage, advantage on stealth checks. And then rock gnomes. All they have is history, expertise, which who gives a fuck? Okay, so forest gnomes are like up here. Deep gnomes are like up here, and rock gnomes are like here. It plays out something like this. This is really good. Gnome cunning, so rolling 2 dice on every single crowd control check in like the entire game, and rolling 2 dice on stealth, which lets you get multiple actions worth of attacks off before combat starts. Those 2 things, again, remember how I said, like, with halfling, this is good enough to bump a race up? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of coming back into play. Oh my god, all the tieflings are bad. Do I even have to talk about tieflings? Fire resistance is pointless, just like on Dragonborn. Dark vision is pointless, just like it is everywhere else. Just fucking cast light if you need dark vision. Produce flames is like, what the fuck ever? Like, who cares? Just use light. Hellish rebuke is like, whatever. I don't even remember what this does, dude. Yeah, this is like reaction fire damage. Like, whatever. It's so little, it doesn't matter. And darkness spells. Like, I will say, the Asmodeus Tieflings are the best. You know, because, like, these are spells you'd actually use early on in the game. Yeah, it's something like this. The problem that these tieflings come across is like Mage Hand. Mage Hand isn't even good in general. It's like mid at best. And like, this is a fucking cantrip for most people. Burning Hands, more like fucking lol. And Flame Blade. Flame Blade is like okay, but you know. Like that's it. They have like one okay thing. Githyanki. So if you are min-maxing, Githyanki are like down here. Which I know there's one YouTuber in particular who puts Githyanki like up here, but he's the same guy who says Longstrider and Fireball aren't good, so we can just kind of ignore whatever he has to say. So they have good proficiencies. They gain proficiency in all skills corresponding to chosen ability. This is really good, but it's kind of annoying that you have to click this pop-up every time you long rest. And Mage Hand, when you get it like this at level 1, you don't have to pick it as a cantrip. Enhance Leap, everybody wants this. And Misty Step, everybody wants this. So the psionics are good. The proficiencies in all fucking skills for a chosen ability ends up being like 5 proficiencies. That's good. And there's a lot of Githyanki specific items. However, scrolls can cover this, and this is a cantrip. I have never been hurting for any of these. If I want proficiency in something, I'll just dip a level into like Rogue and get like 3 proficiencies that way, or just make sure it's part of my starting proficiencies. And if I want to use Githyanki psionic like items, I'll just minor illusion into a Githyanki. So any Kresh benefits, negligible, because minor illusion gives the same thing. Any item benefits, negligible, because minor illusion does the same thing. The psionics, 1 is a cantrip, 2 are ritual spells, and like, you can just replace them with scrolls. And the proficiency in all skills is nice if you want a jack of all trades. Here's the problem. Githyanki are jack of all trades, but like, who fucking cares? You know? Why would I care about being able to get proficiency in any skill in the game when I know 90% of all skill checks are like the same 5 skills, and I can just get proficiency from my race and class combo? You know, it's like, why do I care? That makes Githyanki kind of hard to rate. They're kind of like in the middle most of the time. Like, they don't do anything that... Githyanki are just a solid package. Like, okay, let me put it this way. If you were playing the game for the first time, Githyanki are up here. But if you're like metagaming, Githyanki are like down here. Because any tangible benefit they provide, you're already getting from something else. I will say, though, greatsword and medium armor proficiency, like, if you just want to not think very hard, and you just want to make a really good fighter, then you would just pick Githyanki. But, I don't know, man, this is from a min-maxy perspective. There's no reason to ever pick these guys. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.